Hey guys, Robin here, and welcome to another movie review. Yeah, it's been a while again. Long story short, my laptop is a Lemon and never by Lenovo. This time it's a battery. This time it's a power supply issue. Okay. Okay. Now on to today's review. Today's review is of a 1975 period piece disaster movie, The Hindenburg, starring George C. Scott and Bancroft William Atherton in one of the few roles where the character's not an asshole. More on that later. Roy Thinnis, Gig Young, Burgess Meredith, Charles Durning as the captain of the Hindenburg, and Richard A. Dysart. Now, this movie was directed by Robert Wise. No relation, unfortunately. Director of many legendary movies, such as The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Needless to say, his career has had many ups and downs, much like the Hindenburg. But anyway, so this movie is, well, it's about the Hindenburg, but the movie is very speculative. So basically, if you've been living under a rock, the Hindenburg disaster occurred on May 6th, 1937, as the dirigible Hindenburg was preparing to land in Lakehurst Airfield, in New Jersey, which is still there today. But just before they started the landing procedure, the back end of the Hindenburg went into flames, and the ship quickly went from a lighter-than aircraft to 500,000 tons in like a few seconds, came crashing down, and it was just basically, and the Hindenburg, and in the span of 30 seconds, the Hindenburg went from a luxury air vehicle to a burning wreckage in like 30 seconds around there. Now, it's not known exactly how long it took the Hindenburg to hit the ground after it caught fire, because all footage of the disaster only starts after the first explosion. Now, this woman sends a letter to Germany saying when, how, and where the Hindenburg will be destroyed. But when the FBI goes to a place later, she just revealed to be some woman who thinks she's clairvoyant. Now, now, this is a period piece movie George C. Scott plays a special security officer who's assigned to the Hindenburg because, like in real life, bomb threats have been made against the Zeppelin, and Roy Thinnis actually does play someone who is, like, pro-regime, and Charles Durning's character, Captain Bruce Pruss, not sure, is supported the Nazis, and one character is based off an actual Hindenburg passenger, Joseph Spa, who was an acrobat who actually was accused of sabotaging the Hindenburg because he routinely made multiple unauthorized and unaccompanied visits into the Hindenburg's cargo hold in order to feed his dog, a German Shepherd named Ulla. And he was very skilled at acrobatics, which would allow him to reach like parts of the Hindenburg that normal people wouldn't. Now, now his character did survive, and in the movie there is a dog on board the Hindenburg that is freed while the disaster is happening. But you don't see the dog again until like towards the end, where pictures of the cast come up and a voice says whether they lived or died, and the last person that's said to have survived the disaster is the dog that Atherton frees. But unfortunately, Joseph Spa's dog Allah unfortunately did not make it, but which is unfortunate. But even if the dog did survive, the dog would have passed away like long ago. But anyway, back to the film itself. Now, this movie does a good job at depicting the 1930s, both in Germany and in the United States. Well, like, the outfits people wear are appropriate for the period. The cars that we see both in America and in Germany are both accurate to that era. Really, there's not much in the way of anachronisms. Well, not off the top of my head. There is like one kind of display for like numbers that it's a kind of like display that's kind of like shaped like this, and individual parts like light up. But now I know that LEDs weren't around in '37, but light bulbs were. I'm just not like too sure that that kind of technology was available at the time. But anyway, there is one problem with this movie. So there is a bomb on the Hindenburg that was planted by somebody. And the whole movie is like George C. Scott trying to find out where the bomb is, who planted it, and to like avoid it, and how to like stop it. But since if you're watching this movie, you already know that the Hindenburg went down while going up in flames. But yeah, yeah, it's a very good, decent movie. It's like very well written. It's very well written. It gets kind of tense. Like, even though you know the Hindenburg's gonna get blown up, it's still like very tense. Like, George C. Scott actually does find the bomb. Okay, I'm gonna go into some spoilers for now. So when I go like this, so mute, and when I go like this, you can unmute, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For those of you that did not mute, George George does figure out who the bomber is. It's William Atherton's character, and you're like, Robin, didn't you say that this is one of the few movies that William Atherton is in where his character isn't an asshole? And yes, despite Atherton being the one planting the bomb on the Hindenburg, his character makes it clear that his intended target is only the Hindenburg itself and not the people on board. He and Scott even discussed like what time he could set the bomb for. And after Scott does a bit of number crunching, Atherton sets the bomb to explode at 7:30 p.m. And at that time, like, all the passengers and crew should be off the Hindenburg, all the cargo and mail should be off, there should really be no one on the ship. But this would only happen if the Hindenburg landed, like, on time, which it didn't, and once that becomes apparent, and Roy Finnis, who plays, a Nazi, he basically finds out what Atherton is up to, and by the time Scott finds Atherton, he's being bound up and being and he's cut up by a knife by Thinis. and yeah, after this, and after Scott kicks Vogel's ass. Vogel is the name of Thinis's character. He asks him where the bomb is, and Atherton tells him where it is, and Scott finds the bomb. But while attempting to disarm it, I'm not sure what happened, but it's one of two things. One, the time the bomb was set to go off arrived and it blew up, or Scott accidentally detonated the bomb while trying to disarm it because there's this one little ticky thing he kept moving up and down. And Atherton, not only does he live long enough to see the Hindenburg was reduced to a wreckage, he also managed to redeem himself by using what little remaining strength he has to crawl towards the cage that the dog is stuck in, which is a Dalmatian. He opens the cage and the dog just immediately bolts out of there. And you do not see the dog again until... So you don't see the dog running out of the wreckage. So you're so I'm oh my god, where's the dog? Is the dog okay? Where's the dog? Please tell me that the dog's okay. And and the dog is revealed to have survived because at the epilogue, where the narrator is saying who is showing pictures of the cast and crew, the cast in the film and which one lived or died, the last passenger that's said to have survived is the dog, which is very good because you can't kill a dog in a movie. It's like Joe Bob Briggs said, you can kill as many people as you want to, but you never kill a pet. People get upset. And yeah, it's a great movie. Okay, for those of you who do not want spoilers, I'll sum it up like this. I'll set it up like this. The dog survives. The Hindenburg blows up, which you already knew going in because that's what happened in real life. But yeah, this is a very good, very interesting movie. I can certainly say it didn't leave me bored, but there is one inaccuracy because one of the Hindenburg's passengers in the movie and in real life was Mr. Lehman. Now, in this movie, as well as the 2011 made-for-television movie about the Hindenburg, Lehman, it seemed dazedly walking away from the Hindenburg, and it looked like he's just fine. But then he drops to the ground dead, and we see that his back is horribly burned. In real life, Lehman did die as a result of his injuries, but it wasn't while he was walking away from the airship. He actually died the next day in a nearby hospital. Yeah. And Joseph Spa, he survived the Hindenburg accident by smashing a window with his camera, which he was using to film the landing. The camera did survive, as did the film. He hung out the window, hanging onto the sill, kind of dangling in the air, until the ship was 20 feet off the ground, which he let go, fell, and unfortunately he broke his ankle upon landing, but fortunately, one of the many people on base, saw him, urgently crawling away, and went up to go and help him. Now, the Hindenburg, when we see it in flight, it's a model of the Hindenburg about, maybe 20 feet long or so. And the model of the Hindenburg used in this film is actually on display at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., located above and in front of the museum's gift shop, which, by the way, I actually have been to that museum. It was all the way back in like 2007 or 2008, and I got this toy plane from. Yeah. Yeah, you can see that the landing gear snapped off, but the propeller's still fine, yeah. And it says, see, Smithsonian Institution Air and Space Museum. Yeah. So, next time you're there, be sure to check out the Hindenburg replica. Now, anyway, this is a good movie. It's not Robert Wise's best movie. That still goes to Day the Earth Stood Still, but it's very good as a disaster movie, and it's even kind of, yeah, it basically works. It's a disaster movie, it's a period piece drama, and it's also kind of sort of a thriller. Now the actual crash of the Hindenburg, which this is also probably the reason why it wasn't. Also, this is probably the reason why it took 38 years for the Hindenburg to get its own movie, because after the bomb explodes, the movie switches from color to black and white, so it can line up the passengers like escaping or trying to escape with the actual newsreel footage of the Hindenburg disaster, which is done really well and there's even like one scene. So earlier in the film, Burgess Meredith had a friend who they make their living basically. They're card sharks. They basically cheat at gambling games involving cards. And Anne Bancroft catches on, and she actually uses their own method against them to get all their money. And they actually do run into each other while the airship is going down. Which, by the way, the Anne Bancroft's the Hindenburg survivor she is based on survived. She survived by just walking down the gangplank steps when it just dropped open, and Meredith and his friend, once they bump into each other a few seconds before the steps drop down, and they put their, now obviously they got them, she took all the money and they weren't too happy about it, but they put their contempt aside and they helped her out, which, yeah, that's what you do, you know? It doesn't matter if the person, been rude to you. It's just, in times like that, you gotta help them out. Anyway, and, yeah. And, now, earlier I did mention that Lakehurst airfield where the Hindenburg was supposed to land, it does still exist today, but even though the Hindenburg was well recorded and it was a great catastrophe, there's not really much there. There's a memorial that's basically kind of the outline of the ship where it was supposed to land, surrounded by these giant yellow links of chain. Yeah. And I did check on Google, and yes, you can go there, but it's temporarily closed, I assume because of the pandemic. Also, yeah, this scab on my elbow, I'll talk about that later. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great disaster film. It's great as a period piece, if you like those as well. And if you, like me, have a fascination with the Hindenburg, I can definitely give this a watch. In fact, the entire film is on YouTube, and I will provide a link to that, and I will provide a link to it in the description below, and it's a really good movie. It's actually, it was nice to see William Atherton like, not playing a character who you're supposed to hate. Like, his character is actually sympathetic. But yeah, so thank you all for watching this review of the Hindenburg, and I will see you all soon in the near future with my review of Colossus, the Foreman project, provided the repair to my laptop didn't wipe the drive and erase the video, which, since it's just a power supply issue, I would hope not. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all soon in the near future. Peace.